Hey guys, there's a disturbing aspect online in the Sasquatch community. It's times when or rather information is put forth that is actually disinformation. These falsehoods are often used to promote shaky evidence, I think, or, to make somebody appear knowledgeable and important while they're neither. Now, this is just my own observation, but there seems to be a reaction to this where these hoaxers are dragged out into the light of day and exposed for what they are, and rightly so. Now, there's a number of you I'm well aware of that have the opinion that maybe these hoaxers or spreaders of disinformation have their deeds not only revisited, but also rehashed or by some people over and over again. Too much, do you think? We should just forgive and forget, you think? No. Why? Because people have short memories and have to be coaxed from their complacency from time to time. At least that's what I believe. However, having said that, a recent question occurred to me on a personal level. Did I really care about what standing or bison or porcupines in trees were currently doing? No. I knew of them, and that was enough reason to just avoid them. But that reckoning only comes with a maturity and a sense of understanding on how the Sasquatch community works. But influencers like those have a way of getting under your skin if you're not sure of what is truthful and what isn't. And they make it harder for the newcomer to decide what are the facts. So much so that I now look at them as more than just distractions, but also as predators, as I watch them take advantage of those who are too lazy to do any work to obtain knowledge, but rather have others do the heavy lifting for them with research. Hoaxers and disinformation people know full well who they're dealing with when it comes to their audience. Believe you me, I refer to the audience as Nerfs. No evidence required, folks. No evidence required. We will swallow anything that you care to feed us. And there's a lot of those out there too, believe me. The deceivers have thousands of followers, make no mistake, and they'll stick by them no matter what in a show of laziness. And some of these guys are even narcissistic enough to believe their own crap, which they pass on to their subscribers. So they have no interest or incentive to change. So who are the ones who are really affected by this? That's right, the newcomers to this wonderful pastime that we have chosen. They're susceptible to these deceivers. When I was younger, I could clearly see what was fact-based and what was not. So I could not understand why there were those who based their knowledge about Sasquatch on hearsay and supposition. Also, these were the same people who did not want to recognize factual evidence in turn. It was very frustrating, and it brought out an anger in me, I got to admit, that they would rather be duped than embrace the facts of the phenomena. They were just sucking the joy out of Sasquatch for me, man, the whole subject, turning it into a fairy tale instead of a serious study of the subject. That was until I learned to forgive those people with their slanted views for spoiling my enjoyment. These days, I have a much better understanding over why they got to me so much. It doesn't happen anymore. Just give a listen to this. It covers the situation.
When you hear, can you forgive that person? Probably a part of you is like, well, no, what they did was wrong and horrible. Doesn't take away from that. Forgiving doesn't mean approving. Forgiving means freeing yourself energetically from the impact that it has on you. It's an inside job. Forgiveness only has to do with you. Then you can look at a situation and be like, you know what that person did was wrong. That person, never see them again. I don't approve of it. But at least now you're no longer run by it. Sadly, what people do is like, I don't approve, but then they're still affected by it and fucks their life up. No. Forgiveness is you cutting those invisible cords and freeing yourself. No longer being run by the past. What happened, what didn't happen, what should have happened.
Most people are not intelligent enough to self-analyze and defrag their own brains and understand they're being programmed. Yeah. Most people do not have that level of intellect to sit there and say, every strongly held opinion that I have, where did it come from, who told me it, and do they have my best interests at heart? You didn't like me, for example. No, it's fine. I actually find it's great for me to make points, so I'm glad you didn't like it. I don't like Andrew Tate. Why? Well, they told me not to like him. Who told me? Well, these people. Do they care about me? No. Most people don't get an opinion and break down where it even comes from. They just get an opinion and they defend it, and you'll see people arguing and fighting in the street over opinions they don't even know where they've come from in the first place.
Well, the man telleth the truth. What can I say? A bit flamboyant, but there you have it. The truth will out. Now, I admit that in the past I've reviled some posters who attacked me for not agreeing with what was the truth, their truth. But eventually I learned that social media wasn't the best venue to utilize when dealing with a subject that you were passionate about. Why? Because you're going to meet other people who are passionate too, perhaps not always in a good way. Eventually, I came to realize that all that I am responsible for is myself. The Sasquatch community does not owe me a thing. Conversely, I do not owe anything to the Sasquatch community. In the end, I came to the realization that a lot of energy, mostly negative, was being spent upon the subject that did not even exist in the minds of most people. But eventually I found that my real problem with this discord lay at the feet of the human condition. Believe it or not, at the feet of the human condition. I'm sure that you've heard about the three kinds of people in the world. There's the sheep, the shepherds, and the wolves. Let's see how the sheep function.
Thus it might be that one family camped near a spring, and another camped for the spring and for company, and a third because two families had pioneered the place and found it good. And when the sun went down, perhaps 20 families and 20 cars were there. This quote from John Steinbeck's classic, The Grapes of Wrath, paints a powerful reality about human nature. It depicts humans as the social animals that we are, reminding us that in times of uncertainty, people are afraid, and when we're afraid, we rely upon the herd to guide us. Sure, the crowd's guidance can be a useful crutch to lean upon, but what happens when we use it too often, when we're just lazy? The concept we're teasing out here is known as herding behavior, and we can define it as people doing what others do instead of using their own information to make decisions. This happens often. We see a large number of people acting in the same way, and we think there's no way that they could all be wrong. They must know something that we don't. We start to base our decisions off of the assumption that everyone else has done their research or knows something that we don't know. But that's not always the case. Consider the following example offered by Robert Shiller, an economist at Yale. Suppose two restaurants open next door to each other, Restaurant A and Restaurant B. The very first customer sees two empty restaurants and must choose which one to eat at based only on their appearance. Let's say she chooses Restaurant A. The second customer sees one person eating at Restaurant A and an empty Restaurant B. She makes her choice based on two things. First, the appearance of each restaurant. That's her own information. And secondly, the fact that the first customer chose Restaurant A. That's external information. If the second customer chooses to go to Restaurant A, then the third customer will see two people eating at Restaurant A and an empty Restaurant B. I think you see where this is going. As people continue to join the crowd, they prompt others to do the same. Eventually, each customer might end up at restaurant A, which could actually be the poorer restaurant. What's happened is people have ignored their own information, and that creates a distorted signal chain. We think that everyone has made an informed decision, and that decision appears to have value. But in reality, everyone has based their decisions on the decisions made by others. And because of this, our decision contains no real valuable information. These chains of behavior are sometimes called informational cascades, and they help us explain everything from standard conformity to fads and booms and crashes. Speaking of booms and crashes, you might remember the financial crisis of 2008. While an event as cataclysmic and complex as that cannot be explained by one behavioral failure, research suggests that herding behavior may have played a role in decision-making by investment managers. Investors concerned with their own reputation have shown to mimic the investment decisions of other managers, ignoring their own private information. It's worth returning to the idea that in times of uncertainty, people are afraid. And when we're afraid, we rely upon the herd to guide us. As the financial world collapsed in 2008 and uncertainty loomed above us all, there's no question that our herd mentality kicked in, and it probably played a role in our decision-making. Whether or not we're aware of it, our reliance upon the herd plants the seeds which will influence the stores we shop at, the restaurants we try out, and even the universities we choose to attend. The solution is not to avoid all external information. Rather, the idea is to become more aware of the information we're using to make decisions, especially when we're observing what other people are doing. The herd is not synonymous with bad. However, our over-reliance on the herd prompts ignorance and distorts the information we use to make decisions.
Well, you know, we've all been sheep at one time or another in our lives. Nothing wrong with that. The real problem is when you deny that you are capable of being such. When you dig in your heels against all comers and deny your ability to be fallible. In this situation, you're just being who you are, and it's no longer a mystery why you play the part that you do. But I do believe that if those who have not drank anyone's Kool-Aid can get to these people first, then you will see a new era in Sasquatch research. I know that's a tall order, but I do not believe it's an impossible goal to reach. But it's important that if you love this subject, that you do what you can to shed light on the activities of hoaxers and those who would spread disinformation just for gain. Anyway, just my idle thought for the day. That's about it. Hope we all got something out of it. Time to feed the dog. Later.